Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome to the stage Christian Talbot? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. Welcome to the show. Thanks very much for coming out. This is wonderful. This is a show called Desperately Seeking Approval. Okay? It's a show about depression. Right, don't leave, okay? don't leave. It's a show about depression, okay? But it's a show about depression. It's a show about how my depression got me my 15 minutes of fame, how it made me famous for a day. And I'll be talking about that later on, okay? It all started back in 2002. Now, in 2002, I did 3 of the most stressful things that a person can do in their lifetime, but I did them all in the same week, okay? I moved house. Okay, I changed job, and I had a baby. Yeah, had a baby. Well, I didn't have a baby. My wife had a baby. That would have been more stressful. The only way it could have been more stressful is if I had to MOT the car that same week. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that. So all of those things happened to me at the same time, and it brought about what the doctors called stress-induced OCD, okay, obsessive-compulsive disorder, along with a healthy dose of agoraphobia thrown in for good measure. For a time, I was able to work from home. When my daughter was born, I was able to work from home for about a year. And for a 6-month period during that year, I didn't leave the house once. For 6 months, I didn't leave the house once. I became very obsessed with things being neat and tidy. So if somebody left a sock hanging out of a drawer, that would upset me. If there was a dust bunny in the middle of the floor, even though it was 3 o'clock in the morning, I would have to hoover it up. When we put petrol into the car, it would have to go up to £10 or £20 or £30. It would have to be an exact figure, even if there was petrol coming out of the car. And I knew that there was something wrong. I knew that there was something wrong. My friends knew that there was something wrong. And they said to me, Christian, I think what you should do is to do a course of cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, it's called CBT for short. Does anybody not know what CBT is? You're sniggering because you're thinking of the other acronym for CBT, aren't you? Yeah.
There are a number.
I've done this show before, so I know. Cognitive behavioral therapy, I'm going to tell you anyway, it doesn't matter. Cognitive behavioral therapy is where you go along to a therapist, and what they do is that they teach you techniques, a way to deal with your anxiety, and then if you deal with your anxiety, you're able to deal with your depression. So they teach you these practical techniques. So one of the techniques that they show you is about your breathing. They teach you to control your breathing. And then if you're able to control your breathing, you get less anxious, you become less depressed. They teach you to write out some of your anxieties to show that they're irrational. So for example, okay, I have a fear of crowds, okay, which is why I'm playing a very small venue like this. I have a fear of crowds. And so what I would do is I would write down, if I wanted to go to a march or something like that, I would write down, I want to go to the march, I'm anxious about that, and you would write out all the reasons you think that you would be anxious about doing that, and you try and rationalize those. And because you're able to rationalize those, it makes you less fearful. That's the theory behind it. So I went along, I booked a course of cognitive behavioral therapy with a counsellor. And I went along to this counsellor. The first meeting I had with him, he wanted to take me out of my comfort zone. He wanted to see what I was like in a very tense situation, in a stressful situation. So this is in 2002, by the way. He brought me into Woolworths in Belfast when there was still a Woolworths. Okay, so he brought me into Woolworths in Belfast, and he wanted to see what I was like with lots of people around and a high-stressed environment for me. And while we were walking along, he walked with a cane, right? He walked with a cane. He deliberately tripped me up to see what I would do in a stressful situation. I fell headfirst into the pick and mix. I split my lip open. That should have been a red flag, shouldn't it? That should have been a red flag. We didn't get on. Me and my therapist didn't get on. No, we didn't. After that, I didn't like him, right? We had a personality clash. Number one, I didn't like him because he reminded me of my uncle, right? He didn't like me because I kept calling him uncle. Like we went along for the session afterwards. We were in his therapy room, you know, and he was talking away to me, and he said, "Christian, how can I help you?" And I said, "Well, I've always had a very difficult relationship with your sister." He said, "No, Christian, she's not my sister. I'm not your uncle. We're not going to be talking about your relationship with your mother. I'm only going to be teaching you practical techniques to deal with your anxiety." Okay? I said, "I had a very strange dream last night." He said, "Christian, no, we're not going to be analysing your dreams, right? Then we're going to teach you practical techniques in order to deal with your anxiety." Now, the thing is, as I said, I didn't really get on with him very well. He didn't like me. I didn't like him. I rang to make an appointment for the third session. And so I rang him up and I say, I'd like to make an appointment for Thursday. And he says, "Christian, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to treat you anymore." And I said, "Why aren't you going to be able to treat me anymore?" He said, "Well, I'm sorry, I've just had a heart attack. I'm actually in hospital at the moment. I'm recovering. I don't know when I'm going to be back working again. I think you need to go to the clinic and maybe make an appointment with another therapist. I wish you all the very best of luck." So I went down to the clinic the next day. Okay, I bought him flowers. Brought flowers along, so I thought that the clinic would give them into him in hospital. He was in the clinic. He was there. There was nothing wrong with him. He just didn't want to be my therapist anymore. Anyway, talking therapies aren't for everybody. That's just what I'm saying. I didn't leave the house for another 6 months. That was a true story. Is everybody self-medicating tonight, by the way? Not self-medicating, that's good. So, it all came to a head last year. Last year, I went to the Melbourne Comedy Festival. Thank you. I went to the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and it was wonderful. I had a great time. You know the best thing I saw when I was there for a whole month. The best thing I saw for the whole month I was there in Australia was on the very first night. Okay, I was crying into the sink, and I realised that my tears went round in the opposite direction to the way they do here. Science is a wonderful thing, isn't it? It's great. So I was in Melbourne, and I stayed in an Airbnb for the month that I was there, and I stayed with this lovely couple. They brought me out to meet their friends. They brought me out for dinner. They brought me out to different events and stuff like that when I wasn't doing my gigs. It was wonderful. They were like my best friends. We became really good friends. And one Saturday, they said to me, Christian, would you like to go to an Australian rules football game? And I said, no, I don't want to go to an. No, that sounds horrible. That sounds like everything I hate. I don't like sports. I hate crowds. That sounds like the worst thing possible. But then I thought to myself, no, Christian, you're in Australia. Okay, you're in Australia. You can be the new you. You can be a different Christian. You can confront your fears. This is your chance to be. You're going to go along with friends. This is your chance to really be a new person. So I said to them, yes, I will go along to the Australian rules football game. Now, has anybody ever been? Do you know what Australian rules football is like? You do. It's like a cross between soccer and a martial art, isn't it? It's really, really violent. There's a famous saying. Sometimes it's attributed to Oscar Wilde, and sometimes it's attributed to Winston Churchill. I'm not sure exactly where it comes from, but it says that soccer, okay, or football, is a gentleman's game played by ruffians. Okay, rugby is a ruffian's game played by gentlemen. Australian rules football is a psychopath's game played by psychopaths. I went along to the ground and it was like I went to a fight and a football match had broken out. Okay? The only rules I could find to Australian rules football team is there's no rules. There's no rules. I'm sitting up in the stands and already I'm having an anxiety attack because the stands are full of people and they're all screaming and shouting and my heart is going 90 to the dozen. Oh God, this was a huge big mistake. And the thing is, like, I kind of enjoyed the game. There was two teams. I don't know where they were from. They were both very good. Both very good footballing people. And so I'm watching the game, right? And one guy from one team, he jumps up to catch the ball, right? And the other guy from the other team, he's standing beside him, and he goes to jump up and catch the ball at exactly the same time. And this guy realizes he's not going to be able to catch the ball, and mid-jump, he turns around and he punches the other guy straight in the face, knocks some spark out on the ground, and the whole crowd go, yay, yay. And I'm having a heart attack up in the stands. I'm like, oh my God, the referee doesn't stop the match. Oh no, he just looks at him and goes, nah. And he just keeps doing what he's doing. He's just like, the guy is lying on the middle of the pitch. You would think that people would play around him. They would try and avoid him. No, they're standing on him. They're dropping the ball on his head. It was ridiculous. Two guys then from the side of the pitch, they come running on with a stretcher, and they put it down. They put him onto the stretcher, and they go to take him off the ground, and they're like halfway off the pitch, and the guy sits up, gains consciousness, and he goes, bastard! He jumps off the stretcher, he goes running for the other guy. The whole crowd now are going, oh. And the other guy's looking around going, what do they know? Eventually he catches up with them, he punches him on the back of the head, knocks him spark out, and the whole crowd go, yay! I'm having a heart attack at this point. Having a heart attack. At that point, the two guys at the stretcher go running after the second guy. So that didn't help with my agoraphobia at all. It made it much, much worse. When I came home from Australia, I was made redundant from my job. Okay, don't feel sad about that. Okay, it was a great thing. I hated my job. I absolutely hated my job. Okay, I worked in IT and finance, right? IT and pensions to be. Anybody here work in IT? Finance? Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? Yeah, it's horrible. It's soul destroying. And the thing, like, I hated my job. I absolutely hated my job. I hated my job, right? I despised the people that I worked with. I hated the people that I worked with. They got on my nerves so much. On Sunday evenings, I would have a knot in my stomach thinking about going to work the next day. On Monday morning, I would have to be dragged out of bed to go into work. And the thing is, it's my own fault. I started the company. I started the company in 2000. That's how I was able to work from home. I started the company off. There was like a couple of us started the company in 2002, and by the end, we had like 200 employees, okay? And the thing is, like, I couldn't really deal with that. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you saw the title of the show. It's called Desperately Seeking Approval. I want everybody to like me, right? I can't manage people. I'm no good at it, because you can't be nice to everybody, can you? You can't want everybody to love you when you're trying to manage them. And I hated managing people. I'm a doer. I was a developer. I was a software developer. That's what I like to do. But they moved me into managing people. I hated it. And eventually the company was bought over by bigger and bigger assholes. And I hated it. I couldn't deal with people as well. Do you know what really got to me? Was when we had like 200 employees. And I couldn't deal with that amount of people. Right? Every day I'd get a card put in front of me for somebody's birthday or their engagement or their new baby, and I wouldn't know who they are. Do you know what I mean? One time one of the directors came in to me and he said, Christian, will you sign this for Alison? And I said, I don't know who Alison is, never met her, don't know her from Adam. And he said, well, Alison works upstairs in admin. Today is her last day. She's emigrating to Australia with her boyfriend. He signed the card. I said, I don't know, Alison. I don't want to sign the card. He says, Christian, just sign the fucking card, will you? This is what I wrote on Alison's card. Dear Alison, this is very difficult to write, as you can understand. Today is your last day and emotions are running high. Obviously, leaving for Australia is the right thing to do, considering what went on between us. I'll always treasure those moments we shared in the staff kitchen, the constant texting, the furtive glances, and the fumbling to get out of our clothes in the stationery cupboard. I'm just sorry that it had to end this way and that you're leaving with him. You were one of my favourites. And I'll always wonder if the little miracle inside you has my eyes. Safe trip, Tom, from accounts. Tom got fired. Tom got fired. They let me go very soon after that, as you can probably imagine. They let me go very soon after that. And that was great. The day after I left the office, I decided that I was going to get my life in order. I decided I was going to address all of the things that were wrong in my life. And number one on that list was my anxiety and my depression. And the thing is, I never addressed that before. And the reason I never addressed it before is because I thought I would go along to the doctor and they would give me antidepressants and that would make me stay in my job. And I didn't want that. In the back of my mind, I wanted to be made redundant. So the next day, I made an appointment with the doctor. On my way to the doctor's, I stopped off, I bought a mountain bike because I thought I was going to get fit and healthy. I was going to get rid of my beer belly. I was going to go out mountain biking. It's still in the garage, still has the price tag on it. I went to the doctor's and the doctor said, Christian, okay, so how can I help you? And I said, well, it struck me that I've been suffering from depression and anxiety for a number of years. And she says, have you tried cognitive behavioral therapy? I said, yes, I have, with varying success. And I explained to her what happened. And she said, oh, Jesus Christ, that's terrible, that's awful, that sounds terrible. You haven't been for any other sort of treatment or therapy since then? And I said, no, that's completely put me off. And she said, well, Christian, here's the thing. I don't think that talking therapies are going to work for you. And I said, really? She goes, no, they're not going to work for you. I said, why not? And she said, Christian, and this is what she said, right, get this. This is what she said. Christian, you're too intelligent. You're too clever to talk your way out of your depression. And I was like, no. Oh, yeah. Oh, feed me approval. Tell me I'm clever. That's all I needed was her to tell me that every morning. I didn't need antidepressants. But of course, then she said to me, Christian, I think your problem is, it's purely chemical. Purely chemical. You've got very low serotonin, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on a course of antidepressants. I'm going to put you on citalopram, I'm going to put you on 20 milligrams a day, and we'll see how you get on with that. And she was right. She was absolutely right. A few days later, after starting to take the antidepressants, I felt great. I felt brilliant. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not trying to advocate that everybody takes antidepressants. I'm not doing that for 1 second. I'm really not. All I'm saying is, in my case, they worked for me, okay? And it's not like I still don't have bad days. We all have bad days, don't we? Yeah. I just didn't have days where I didn't want to get out of bed for a week, okay? So it really, really helped me. About a week after I started taking the antidepressants, I came over to London. I was at a comedy conference, and I was sitting around at lunchtime with my friends, some of my comedy friends, and I went to take my antidepressant after I had eaten. You're supposed to take your antidepressant after you've eaten. And I realized I didn't want to do that in front of my comedian friends. I felt quite weird about doing that. I mean, mainly because comedians are pricks. All comedians are terrible people. They will just slag you off for whatever. But I thought to myself, there's a stigma about doing this. And instead, I went into the bathroom and I took my antidepressant and I came back. And I went back home and I thought about this. I thought about why did I feel so uncomfortable about taking my antidepressant in front of my friends? Why did I feel that? Particularly as a comedian as well. I ended up, I wrote an article for the Huffington Post. Thank you. Anybody can write an article for the Huffington Post. So I wrote an article for the Huffington Post about the stigma of taking antidepressants, of a comedian taking antidepressants. And I thought that a few people, some of my friends would read it, or it might get maybe 100 views maybe at the most. It went viral, okay? It was shared around an awful lot of times. It really took me by surprise. And a lot of other comedians then got in touch with me. Some quite famous comedians now. And they got in touch, they emailed me or messaged me or on Facebook. And they were sort of said, there was two sort of responses. One was, I've been on antidepressants for years. I've never told anybody about it. It's very brave of you to talk about this. I didn't think it was brave of me at all. I just wanted to talk about it. I don't think there's anything brave about it. And then there was the other comedians who were going, I've been depressed for years and I haven't taken anything, or antidepressants, I haven't done anything about it. Can you give me some advice? And I felt a great weight of responsibility because there was an awful lot of these messages and I had to answer all of them personally. And I took the time to do that. I felt responsibility to doing that. And all I could really say is, look, they worked for me. I don't know if they're going to work for you. Maybe you should go and talk to your doctor. Maybe you could do CBT. Just talk to your doctor first and work out what's best for you. As I said, like there were some quite famous comedians now who got in touch with me. Obviously, I'm not going to mention who they are because I'm not drunk. And it's not you can catch me in the bar later on. See, the thing is, I've always been a very anxious person. Are there any Irish people in tonight? Woo! Do you know the phrase "go be the wall and tickle the bricks"?
Yeah.
Yeah, go be the wall. It's an Irish phrase, right? My mum used to call me. I was a very anxious child. There's a phrase in Ireland, it's called "go be the wall and tickle the bricks." It means that you don't want to be noticed, that you want to be anonymous, that when you're walking along, and you're quite timid. That's what I was like when I was a kid. Was a go be the wall and tickle the bricks. And the reason was that I was bullied a lot when I was a kid. I was bullied at school. I was beaten up most days because I was called gay and queer and puff and stuff like that. Because I wasn't a very laddie kid. Do you know what I mean? I didn't like football. I didn't like all the sports and stuff like that. My grandfather discovered that I was getting beaten up all the time. And my grandfather, he was a All-Ireland amateur boxing champion for 4 years during the war, during the 1940s. He then went on to become the chairman of the Irish All-Ireland Amateur Boxing Association. His name is Dennis Morrison. He was a wonderful guy. And he heard I was being bullied, and he said, Christian, I'm going to teach you how to box. I'm going to bring you down to the gym. We're going to teach you how to box. We'll man you up. We'll turn you into a fighter. You can beat up the bullies. And my father then said, no, you're not going to do that. I don't want my son learning how to box. It's a barbaric sport. It's savage. So instead, my grandfather said, right, he took me aside surreptitiously and he said, Christian, if I can't teach you how to box, I'm going to show you how to throw a punch. Right? So this is what you do, right? Give me your hand. He took my arm like that. He said, you make a fist like this, right? You don't put your thumb in like that, right? You take your thumb out like that because if you punch somebody, you're going to break your thumb. So you just keep your fist like that, okay? And then you punch them right in the nose. My grandfather was absolutely right. Absolutely right. The next time that I got into a fight, my thumb remained unbroken. Even when they ran me over with a car. My best friend Darryl, at school, when we left school, we sort of parted ways. I didn't really see him for a number of years. He came out, and he moved to Brighton, surprisingly. And I met him he got me on Facebook, and we met up, and we went for a drink. And I said to him, Darryl, when we were at school, when we were teenagers at school, did you realise that you were gay? And he said, yes, I did. And I said, well, why didn't you say anything? I said, well, I didn't want to end up beaten up like you every day. Thanks very much for taking all the heat from me. The thing, I'm, as I said, I'm agoraphobic. I don't like crowds. I'm very good at hiding my agoraphobia nowadays. If I'm walking along the street, I will probably still look a bit anxious and nervous, but I've developed a way of sort of hiding it. Since doing stand-up and stuff like that, I've actually become a lot better of sort of dealing with it. I'm really good at talking to crowds, I think. I'm better at talking to crowds when I'm up here than I am sort of like personally, sort of one-to-one and stuff like that. But I'm getting better at it. The one thing that also bothers me, that I have a problem with when I'm out on the streets, as well as the agoraphobia, is that, and I feel strange saying this, admitting this, but I'm very often mistaken for a homeless person. I am. At least once a month, somebody mistakes me for being homeless. I'll give you a few examples. I was doing a gig in Kentish Town last year. No, it was winter last year, sort of November, and I came out of the tube station in Kentish Town, and I've got my big black coat on, and I've got my beanie hat on, and I've got my backpack and everything, and I'm standing there, and I'm looking on my mobile phone, on my Google Maps, to see where the venue is. And as I'm standing there, there's a middle-aged, middle-class couple, and they're having a fight beside me, and they're having one of those very middle-class, middle-aged fights. Okay, they're not shouting at one another. They're doing this sort of, no, you fuck up, no, you fuck up. And of course, I'm looking at my phone. I'm earwigging like this to hear what they're talking about. And eventually, the guy goes, "Well, fuck you. I'm going home," and he storms off down the road. And he leaves his girlfriend or wife standing there, and she starts to cry. And I'm a nice guy. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to leave a woman standing there crying. And I think to myself, what should I do? I should say something to her. So I turn to her and I say, "Excuse me, are you okay?" And she turned to me and said, "I'm sorry, I don't have anything for you at the moment." I was in Reading. I did a gig in Reading. 11 o'clock at night, I'm leaving the venue in Reading. I'm heading up towards the train station. There's two homeless guys at the side of the road, and one of them says, "Excuse me, do you have..." "Oh, sorry, I didn't realise you were homeless and all." I said, "I'm not homeless, I'm a comedian." And he went, It's okay, mate. It's all right." The gig only paid 20 quid. I had to give him a fiver of it just to prove I wasn't homeless. I was in Stevenage. Does anybody know Stevenage? Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, my God, Stevenage. I did a gig in Stevenage, and I thought to myself, right, I did no research on Stevenage whatsoever. I didn't look it up. Okay, I didn't Google it. I just thought to myself, okay, I'm from Ireland. I always thought, oh, Stevenage, the beautiful market town of Stevenage. I left for Stevenage, right, 5 hours beforehand, because I thought I would walk around some of the antique shops. I'd get some tea, maybe a crumpet, something like that in Stevenage. I get off the train, okay. I walk in I follow the signs for the town centre. And I'm walking around the place, and I see a guy, and I go, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the town centre is?" And he went, "This is it." I went, "Oh, shit." Oh, no. Wow, I made a huge, big mistake. So I turned on my heels, and I went back to the theatre was right beside the train station. So I go back to the train station. I go back to the theatre. It's like I'm really early. I'm like 3 hours early for my gig. I knock on the door. And there's a woman working behind the counter, and she says, "Can I help you?" I said, I'm very early for the gig. Do you mind if I come in and charge my phone, maybe sit and just, relax and stuff before my gig? And she goes, "Yeah, that's no problem at all. There's some chairs around there. You go and sit around there." I go in, I charge my phone, I take off my jacket and everything. I have my backpack with me. The manageress comes out. She didn't see me come in. She makes a beeline for me. And she goes, "Excuse me, but what the hell do you think you're doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm charging my phone." She goes, "You can't just come in here and charge your phone." I said, "Well, I'm one of the acts on tonight. And she looked around and saw my face on the posters around the walls. And she went, well, that doesn't matter. You still can't charge your phone. It needs to be pat tested. Pat tested! Your phone needs to be pat tested. Jesus. I went up and I did the gig, and at the end of the gig, this other manager guy comes over to me and he goes, "That was wonderful. That was really good, Chris. It was very nice to have you here. Hopefully you can come back." And I said, "What happened to the other manageress who was here earlier?" She was talking to me. She goes, "Oh, she went home sick. She went home sick. I bet she did. I bet she did. Sick as a parrot. I bet she did." I'm originally from Dublin. You can probably tell. I'm from a place in Dublin called Coolock. And Coolock is known for two things, right? Coolock is known for the Cadbury's chocolate factory, and it's known for the Tato crisp factory. Yeah. And my school was slap bang in the middle between those two factories. And an awful lot of the kids who went to my school, their parents worked in either one of those factories, and you would know those kids, at lunchtime. Whereas I would have like a sandwich and an apple. They'd have diabetes. I don't live there anymore. I live in a place called Dundrum, which is in Northern Ireland, in County Down, and it's a beautiful place, County Down. It's really, really nice. We've got the mountains of Mourne sweeping down to the sea. We've got two bays, an inner and an outer bay. We've too many bays. We've got a surfeit of bays, a surplus of bays, I should say. We've got a forest park. My house, right behind my house, there is a 12th century castle. Swear to God, it is beautiful, but it's so fucking boring. It's so boring. Nothing happens there. Oh God! I mean, if you like walking dogs, it's great, but I spend half my time I spend the majority of my time in London now, and I spend my home time sort of back over there, and the thing is, it just doesn't have all the things that London has. It doesn't. It doesn't have the tube. It doesn't have pret-a-manger. It doesn't have legalised abortion. We do have a National Trust Forest Park, though, so who's the real winner? Mummy, can we go to the forest park? I never wanted you. So I like London in many ways, but the other thing about London is that it's compared to Dundrum, it's scary. There's lots of things happening. It's very stressful. I get quite anxious when we're in the streets of London, so I like to try and find places of calm. Okay, I like to find little oases of quiet that I can go to in London. I like St. Paul's Cathedral. Love St. Paul's Cathedral. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a religious person. I'm not. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool atheist. I'm a true unbeliever. But I find places of worship to be quite calming. It's a nice place to go and reflect. There's a thing about St. Paul's Cathedral. Did you know that St. Paul's Cathedral is one of the only places that wasn't bombed during the Blitz? Did you know that? Yeah? Hmm? So it wasn't bombed during the Blitz, right? I think what happened is that was the German bombers were going over at the time. They're going, have you got the target in sight, Hans? Yes, I've got the target in sight. I can see the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. Look at Sir Christopher Wren's architecture. Stay on target. Hans, you've turned off your tracking computer. I know what I'm doing. I'm setting course for Clapham. The thing is that St. Paul's Cathedral was bombed twice during the Second World War. It's one of these fallacies that people, if you look it up on Wikipedia, it was bombed. It was actually bombed twice. But everybody always says, it wasn't bombed during the Second World War. It was bombed twice. So I like St. Paul's Cathedral. The last time I was in there, I like to sit up in the gallery. And the last time I was in there was a choir on. And it was beautiful. I was sitting back listening to them sing. And it was just like the echo of the sound going around. There was a soloist, and he had a backing choir with him, and they were all singing in Latin, not just for the Catholics then. So they're all singing in Latin. Now I don't understand Latin, okay? So but he was singing, he was going hey he ha hoo hey, like that. I didn't understand it. I don't know. I presume he was saying something like, Jesus is good, isn't he? Do you like Jesus? Thoroughly recommend Jesus. He's fantastic. If you haven't heard of Jesus, check him out. He's here every Sunday. Okay? It's a free show. There's a book collection at the end. Check out Jesus. And then the whole choir, they join in. They're like, hey, he, ha, hoo, hey. And they're going, yeah, we're into Jesus as well, aren't we, guys? Yeah, we love Jesus. Big fans of Jesus. We've been into Jesus all along. This guy's here. And the other guy's going, hey, ha, hoo, ha. No, I was into Jesus first, guy. Jesus is my thing. You're all jumping on the Jesus bandwagon. They're like, hey, ha, hoo. No, we were into Jesus as well. No, we saw him at the Sermon on the Mount. We've got the ticket stubs to prove it. So I'm sitting up in the gallery, and as I'm listening to this beautiful sound, a man comes and sits beside me. Okay, he's sitting uncomfortably close beside me. It makes me very uncomfortable. And he turns around, and he starts saying things into my ear, and he's going, Susan, Susan, what's my favorite soup? Susan, what's my favorite soup? Susan, what's my favorite soup, Susan? What's my favorite soup? Now look, I have every sympathy, right, with people with mental illness. I do, I absolutely do. I know the care in the community has been decimated by successive Tory governments, okay? I have every empathy for this guy. But he wasn't mentally ill. He was American. I said, what the hell are you doing? You're shouting into my ear. And he went, buddy, this is the whispering wall. You whisper into the wall, and because of the curvature of the dome, your sound travels all the way around the dome, and somebody on the other side can hear it. I said, the operative word here is whispering. Guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't have an ending for this bit. I don't. God, I spent a whole month in Edinburgh trying to think of an ending. I just never could. It's just... I thought something might come to me on stage here now. I know that with the pressure of the cameras, I thought maybe it would. No. I think things have been really tough for me lately. They have, and I've been quite. No, but they have. I've been under quite an awful lot of stress. You know, I've had a real mental block about this. I've had writer's block about it for months. You know, things haven't been. I'm going to level with you guys. Just talk to you. Like just break the fourth wall. Things aren't well at the moment. Things aren't good. Professionally, they're not good. Personally, I mean, we're sleeping in separate beds at this stage. Financially, I just don't know how I'm going to cope. I mean, on Friday there, I got a phone call from the bank Friday morning. They said, Christian, you're 3 months behind with your mortgage. Have you come up with an ending for the what's my favourite soup? I said I had some good tweets, and they said, no, Christian, we need something more substantial than that. We really need to see something more substantial. Anyway, I'm going to be taking a collection at the end of the show. I know you've paid for tickets, but if you've got any spare change, that would be great. Now, I know, right? I'm well aware of how privileged I am. I'm well aware of how privileged I am. I'm a white, middle-class, middle-aged, straight man. Okay? I've got all the privilege. I've got all the privilege, I do. And here's me up on stage going, my anxiety, I've got depression. I'm well aware of it. But you have to put things into perspective sometimes, don't you? You have to put things into perspective. You wouldn't be able to get through life if you didn't put things into perspective. I've got a 12-year-old nephew, okay? His name is Finn. Finn was born incredibly premature, okay? And as a result of that, he's got cerebral palsy. He can't talk, he can't walk. He's in a wheelchair all the time. He communicates through a letterboard that he has on his wheelchair. He also has like an iPad and a computer and stuff like that. He's a whiz on the computer. And he's happy all of the time. Like every time I see him, he's delighted to see me, he's happy, and he has very little reason to be happy. And it makes me think about myself and think, I really have things, I have things quite easy. I shouldn't be complaining about my depression and my anxiety. I have things really, really easy. That I went home to Dublin a few months ago and to visit my parents. And my mum was looking after Finn. And we went out to a cafe and we had tea and everything like that. And I was chatting away to Finn. And I said to him, so Finn, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the thing is, Finn is an enormous Doctor Who fan. And he's obsessed with Back to the Future, the film Back to the Future. Loves Doctor Who and Back to the Future. And I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be a time traveller. That's what he typed into the thing. And I was like, a time traveller? I said, are you going to invent a time machine, Finn? And he said, yeah, I'm going to invent a time machine. Well, if anybody can, you can. I think that's marvellous. I said, well, what time would you like to go to, Finn? You know, what time would you like to go to? And he said, 2004. I said, you want to go to 2004? Why do you want to go to 2004? And he said, to fix my legs. And I started to cry. My mom started to cry. And then 30 seconds later, he went, ha, 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 just kidding, dinosaurs, always dinosaurs. Prick, absolute prick. This just shows that he's a whiz on the computers. He's fantastic. He's 12 years old now, right? When he was 8 years old, this is 4 years ago, okay? He hacked into my sister's iPad, okay? And he ordered 1,200 euros worth of Thomas the Tank Engine merchandise from an American eBay site. My sister went to use her card and found that it had maxed out. She went home to find out and looked it up and then confronted him about it and said, what have you done? And he was like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I'm in a wheelchair. What are you going to do? Do you know how she punished him? This is how she punished him. Myself and all of our relatives had to buy the Thomas the Tank Engine merchandise from her and then give it to him for Christmas for the next 3 years. That's how she punished him. He's so good on computers, we have a sneaking suspicion that maybe he was behind Trump getting elected. We can't be sure. As I said, I wrote this article for the Huffington Post about the stigma of taking antidepressants. And earlier this year, in February of this year, I'm sitting in my room in the Docklands, and I get this email from a BBC producer. And it said, Christian, I would like to talk to you. Can you give me a ring on this number? And I was like, it's a BBC producer. This is it. I'm finally going to be famous. I'm going to be on QI or something like that, or Mock the Week. I'm going to be sat beside Dara O'Brien or some shit like that. It's going to be brilliant. They finally discovered that I'm comedy genius. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case, unfortunately. She was a news producer, okay? So I rang the number. And I said hello, and she goes, Christian, I'm blah, 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 I'm from BBC News. I've been doing some research, and I found this article that you've written on the stigma of taking antidepressants. And I said, yes, I wrote that for the Huffington Post. Yeah, I wrote that ages ago. And she goes, yes, well, I've just been reading it now, and I think it's very well written. I think it's very articulate. I think it's very funny. And nom 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 nom. That's brilliant. She said, Christian, this is what's happening, right? Tomorrow, the Lancet are releasing a report about antidepressants, about the use of antidepressants. And what the report says is that in the overwhelming majority of cases, antidepressants work. Okay? I would like to interview you about your article. And I said, that's fantastic. Yes, I would love to do that. I said, I'll come in tomorrow. And she goes, no, Christian, I need you to come in now. It's under embargo at the moment, this report. It's going to be coming out at 6 o'clock in the morning, tomorrow morning. I need you to come in now to do an interview. And I was like, right, okay. I said, I've got a gig actually at like 8 o'clock this evening. She goes, Christian, there will be a car outside your place in 20 minutes. Get into it. We'll bring you to the news centre. We will interview you. We will then bring you to your gig. You will be at your gig at 8 o'clock. I was like, this is brilliant. Fantastic. The BBC are going to send a car for me. She was absolutely right. 20 minutes later, a big black German car pulled up outside my house. I went to get in the front seat, of course, because I'm Irish. The guy was like, no, get in the back. So I'm sitting in the back. If you ever want to know where your taxpayers' money is going, right, it's going on me in the back of a Mercedes, taking selfies on my phone, like just sending them to my mother, going, look, Ma, I've made it. So I go into the BBC studios, and they mic me up, and they're going to interview me. And the thing is, like, I went to take out my phone, right? Because, I mean, you're in the studios, like the news desk is over there, where they do the news. It's right there. And there was all, the guys all on the computers. I was sort of like looking at Facebook when they're not supposed to be, those guys. They were all around me. And so they're interviewing me. I went to take out my phone. And so I take out my phone like this, and she goes, oh, no, you can't take any photographs, Christian. And I was like, oh, no, it's not. I just want to see where my gig is. Like, click, click, click. I'm taking panoramas of the place and sending them home. And so I'll show you the interview that we did at the BBC. I was worried that they might have some sort of side effects that they'd have. I'm worried that they might sort of dull my senses, or maybe make me feel sort of numb, or like I'd heard that people were sort of walking around this kind of a haze, that you didn't really, like, sort of a disconnected sort of feeling. But to be honest with you, I didn't get that when I took them. I think there's still a stigma. I did a comedy gig a couple of nights ago, and one of the female comedians said on stage, "No, I don't date comedians because male comedians, they're all on antidepressants." And so I still think there's a kind of a thing about that. People, I don't know whether it's people are just afraid of them, or they're embarrassed about them, or things like that, because it's a medication just like anything else, except it's for a mental health issue rather than a physical health issue. Right. Oh, thank you. That light applause. So I did the interview with the BBC, and as the woman is interviewing me, she keeps putting her hand on my arm like this, and she keeps going, "Now, Christian, are you okay talking about this?" I was going, "Yeah, no, I'm fine talking about it. No, I'm perfectly good." And then she said, "Christian, now I'm going to ask you about your redundancy. Are you okay talking about this?" I was like, "Yes, I'm fine talking about this. Why do you keep asking me, am I okay talking about this?" And she goes, "It's just, Christian, it looks like you're about to cry." And I went, No, I'm not. This is my face. This is my face. I have a natural resting, just about to cry face. That's my thing. And the thing is, I realised she wanted me to cry on camera. The thing is, I couldn't, because of all the antidepressants. So then she said to me, Christian, I've got one final question for you. Are there any side effects to taking antidepressants? And I said, well, yes, actually there is. There's one quite well-known side effect to taking SSRIs. I said, and that is that it makes it slightly harder for you to orgasm. And she went, oh no, Christian, you can't say orgasm on breakfast news. And I said, oh, okay. So can you rephrase that? Can I rephrase it? Coming? No. Shooting my load? No. Plastering the radio? No. The little death? No, too French. And the thing is that taking SSRIs does make it slightly harder for you to orgasm. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, that's a positive boon, right? The first time I had sex after I took antidepressants, we were having sex, and she said, have you come yet? I was like, no. And she was like, brilliant. We were like high-fiving each other around the bedroom. I'm still inside her. And so the thing is, like, I've never been very good at sex and romance and love and all that sort of stuff. I'm terrible at it. I lost my virginity very late in life. I was well into my 20s because I was brought up in a devoutly awkward household. So I went and I did the interview. I did my gig. I arrived in my Mercedes to my gig in North London. The next day, I came home, went to bed, turned off my phone. I woke up the next morning at like sort of 9, 10 o'clock, and I turned on my phone, and my phone went crazy. I had all of these text messages and Facebook messages and emails and voicemails from my friends. A lot of my friends were going, Christian, you're on the radio. I was listening to BBC Radio Norfolk. You were on the radio this morning being interviewed. You know, all the regional radio stations I was on. I was on the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, all the television news. I was everywhere, I didn't realise it at the time. Somebody else said, Christian, you're number one, your story and your interview is number one on the BBC News website. I was like, my God, that's fantastic. And I started to get some inquiries from other news outlets. I did an interview for BBC 5 Live. I did a live interview for them. I did an interview with The Guardian. I was contacted by Channel 5 News. My telephone number, the London media is actually very, very lazy. If they know that there's one person that they can interview, everybody goes after them. My phone number was passed around the London media like a Netflix login at a shared student house. Everybody had my number. So Channel 5 News ring me. Has anybody ever watched Channel 5 News? No. Yeah. So somebody say, yeah, you've watched this. You're the only person that's ever said they watched Channel 5 News. I was on it. I didn't watch it. They rang me up and they said, Christian, we saw your interview on the BBC. We would like to do something about this as well. Would you be interested in doing an interview with us? And I said, yes, sure. And they said, whereabouts are you? I said, I'm in the Docklands. And they said, we will have somebody with you in half an hour. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, I better get dressed. So half an hour later, this people carrier arrives, and they've got a camera crew, and they've got an interviewer, they've got an intern who went and bought us crisps. And so we did the interview in the Docklands. And I thought to myself, Channel 5 News are going to be very low rent. Okay, I wasn't expecting it to be a very good interview, but it was incredibly intelligent. She asked me some very, very interesting questions, very, very, very intelligent questions. I thought it was great. Then the cameraman said, Christian, we'd like to do some establishing shots with you. Okay? Christian, do you have your antidepressants on you? And I said, no, I don't. They're in the house. He goes, oh, could you go and get them? And I said, why do you want me to get my antidepressants? He says, well, the producer would like a shot of you looking at your antidepressants. That sounds a bit odd. And she goes, look, the producer's just asked for it. We're going to get a lot of shots. we probably won't use it. We just need to tick this off the box. Just humour her. Is that okay? So I went in, I got my antidepressants. They filmed me for 2 minutes contemplating my packet of antidepressants. Then they said to me, Christian, we need an establishing shot of you walking towards the camera. If you could just go down to the crane there, okay? And then walk towards the camera. And as you're halfway between the crane and the camera, I want you to turn and look out to the water. I was like, that's going to make me look like I want to kill myself. And they were like, no, Christian, no, it won't make you look like you want to kill yourself. I was like, it will. So I did that. I walked towards the camera and turned and did that. Then the cameraman says, Christian, now the bridge over to the Excel Centre, could you go to the... I says, I'm not going over to the bridge. It's going to make me look like I want to kill myself. I didn't do that. I stopped it there. Now, at around the same time that this was happening in February, this always feels very, very weird mentioning this on stage, by the way. Something weird happened to me. I put up a cartoon on Facebook. Okay, put up a cartoon on Facebook. That's people put up cartoons all the time on Facebook. For about a year before this, on Facebook I would put up little dialogues between sharks, okay? Just stupid little things, conversations between sharks. And some of my friends liked them. There was other comedians all thought they were very good, and they encouraged me to go and turn them into cartoons. They said, Christian, you have to do something with these. Turn them into a cartoon. The thing is, I can't draw. I haven't. You know the way people have a gene, certain genes for doing things? You know, like rolling your tongue. That gene, right? I don't have the gene for drawing. I can't draw anything. Right, seriously, I don't even know how you would even begin to try drawing something like that. So it took me a while to find somebody to draw something like this. I did a gig in Crouch End, and my friend Sophie, she came along to see it, and we were having dinner beforehand, and she took out a notebook out of her bag, and I thought, oh, that's a lovely notebook. That's quite nice. I like a notebook. You know what I mean? I like stationery. I like, it's like, that's nice. I said, can I have a look at your notebook? And she goes, yeah, sure. So I said, can I open it? And she goes, yeah. So I opened it up, and she had drawn, sort of doodles and things like that, and she had and sort of still life kind of things. And I thought, this is brilliant. I didn't know you drew things. And she goes, yeah, no, I can draw. And I was like, could you draw a shark? And she goes, I'm pretty sure I could draw a shark. Get me a picture of a shark. So I took out my phone, Googled shark. Can you draw that? She went, that's the sort of thing you want? And I was like, yes, that's exactly the sort of thing that I want. Yes. Could you do a cartoon with that? And she goes, yeah, sure. So she drew it, took a photograph of it. I put it up on Facebook the next day onto a Facebook page. I thought maybe my friends would like it, maybe 50, 100 people might like it. It went absolutely viral. It went everywhere. Over the next 2 weeks, it went from 10,000 views to 100,000 views. Eventually went up to 6.5 million views. This is the cartoon that went viral. What is it we can smell from a quarter of a mile away? Blood, not toast. No, Eugene, I think I'm having a stroke. So it got up like 6.5. I think it's actually more than that now. I think it's like 6.8 million. Anyway, it went round all the place, and we've done lots of cartoons since. It was picked up by the news agencies. This is the Irish Independent. This new comic, brilliantly imagined, sassy shark conversation. Shark bants. I hate the word bants. I hate bants. If I knew that they were going to say bants, I'd never have done it. So you got 6.5 million people reached. There you go. I thought to myself, right, it's all coming together for me. This is brilliant. This has finally given me some attention. It's finally given me some approval. Do you know what I mean? All these people love my cartoon. This is wonderful. I finally made it. And I'm on the television, I'm on the news and everything. It's finally gone well for me. My agent, I say my agent, my ex-agent, my agent got in contact with me and she said, Christian, this is fantastic. The sharks thing is really, really going very, very well. I want to put something on our website. want to put something on our website about the Sharks cartoons. I said, that'd be wonderful, that'd be great, thanks very much. This is what my agent put on her website. Bear in mind, this is supposed to be the person who has my best interests at heart. This is supposed to be the person whose main focus should be my career. Christian Slater's comic strip Sharks. Christian Slater! Christian Slater is an American actor. I'm Christian Talbot. Christian Slater, I know. My agent had 2 clients called Christian Talbot and Christian Steele. That's Christian Steele. She had a 50-50 chance of getting it right. She fucked it up. Not only does she not know my name, she doesn't know what the fuck I look like. Yeah. So I thought to myself, okay, this is great. This is what happens whenever I try to get any way forward, to bring my career forward. This happens. Somebody goes and pulls the rug out from underneath me. Now, guys, I never watched that Channel 5 interview. Never watched it. For about 3 months afterwards, I didn't. It was shown on the TV later that evening. There was no sort of catch up or anything like that you could watch it on. I was busy having an interview with The Guardian. Thanks. So I never got to see it. I went home to my parents' house about 3 months later, and my dad said, do you want to watch that interview thing that you were on, the interview on the news? And I was like, yeah, no, Dad, I saw it, the BBC, yeah. And he goes, no, the other one. I videoed it, I have it on the yoke, I have it on the recorder for you, I have it videoed for you. And I was like, what other one? He goes, the other one, the one where you're talking, you're very good on it. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, no, stick it on, put it on. I recorded this on my iPhone from my dad. I don't know the technicalities of trying to get it off of thing. I recorded it with my phone. This is what Channel 5 did to me. We may need to higher up the volume a bit for this one.
Antidepressants do work, and in fact they're so effective many more people should be prescribed them. That's the conclusion of a major study by researchers at Oxford University who say their findings finally put to bed the controversy surrounding the drugs. Dominic Reynolds reports.
It took me a long time to actually address the fact that I had depression, that I had anxiety.
Christian makes people laugh for a living, and he thought fighting with his own mood was just part of the deal.
Who would ever think I look homeless? Seriously.
To take antidepressants, and they did.
I thought that might sort of dull my senses in some way, or that because sort of my personality might change, and that would affect sort of the comedy that I'm doing, or the sort of I wouldn't come up with anything funny anymore. That sort of thing. That was my worry, and actually those were completely unfounded.
Now a report has found that the antidepressant pills do work, which millions are taking already. Christian says he feels the stigma attached to them. The experts
Jump! Jump, you bastard! Jump!
could be an option some have tried. And it learns
Yeah, so had my 15 minutes of fame. I didn't get anything out of that.
Yeah.
Sharks thing, well, actually, that's not going too bad, actually. Right. So I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't get all the things that I wanted. I didn't get fame and fortune and approval. What I did get was an Edinburgh show. You can't always get what you want, but sometimes you might just get what you need. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for listening to my show. Cheers.